All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting edition of How Do I Do This Anyways? Today what we're going to be working on are functions. This is going to be a brief introduction for functions if you're currently having problems with that in VEX V5. The only thing I'm going to tell you is make sure you have your device already programmed in. If you haven't done that already, you can see the prior video for how to do that. Let's go ahead and get started. A function is something that you would use in your code when you have a series of steps that are simple that you want to repeat over and over again. So if you know you're going to have to do an operation or a series of operations over and over again, you'd define a function. That way you only have to write like one word for it, and it would do all the stuff. In this case, you guys are supposed to drive around an object that's specified. So I'm going to give you an example of just driving around a box in my class where in order to define a function, you have to use the keyword def. And then you would name it. So I'm just going to call this step 1. Now after that, you would have a set of parentheses for parameters to go in, which we can go into later. And then you'd have a colon in order to indicate that there's going to be something after that that's important. Now, I hit enter in order to bring myself to the next line, and you can see that my cursor is actually indented for me already underneath that. That indicates that anything that I'm going to type down here is going to be in the body for it. So for it to go around in a square, you were supposed to analyze your code and find the steps that would repeat. So what you should have noticed is that you drove forward, and then you stopped, and then you turned right, and then you stopped, and then you turned forward again, and then you stopped, and then you turned. That's the repeating part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that into 4 parts. And I'm just going to call on my drivetrain now. Drivetrain. Now I'm going to hit a period to tell it what to do now. And I want it to drive for. And I'm going to have it drive for the distance that it's going for. And I want it to go forward. Use parentheses to get into this part of it. And I just want it to go for, I'm just going to call it 24 inches. You can use whatever distance you need, and then hit enter. Now I want it to stop at the end. So now I'm going to call on my drivetrain again, hit period, and then I'm just going to call stop. And it finishes the sentence for me. Again, I'm going to call on my drivetrain, but now I'm going to have it turn. I want it to turn for, because I'm going to tell it how far I want it to turn. Okay, I'm not just going to tell it to turn left or anything like that, or I'm not going to set a velocity. I'm going to tell it how far I want it to turn. I want it to turn to the right to go in this direction, comma. I want it to go 90, comma, and I want it to go degrees. That's my unit of measurement. I don't need it to wait after that, but I do need it to stop. I like it to stop at the end. And stop. And there we go. All right, cool. So that's going to be the end of my function, okay? Now, what I'm now going to have to do is I'm going to have to now actually have it start the program and run the function. Now, if you were in C++, this would be where you would initialize your main, but we're not in C++, we're in Python right now, so we can just go right into coding. I like to go ahead and start my code with letting me know that the code is actually running, because sometimes you press the button and it doesn't do anything. So I want the brain screen to actually print something. I want it to print that value of running. Okay? Nice and simple message that lets me know that the program is in fact running. Then I'm going to have the brain screen dot screen. I'm going to have that progress to the next row. So I'm going to say next row. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on the function that I just made. I'm going to just simply say step 1. I'm going to say step 2. Or step 1 again. And I'm going to do this a third time. And now I'm going to call on it a fourth time to drive around the square. Alright, now to make sure that my program is done, I want to go ahead and say brain screen, brain.screen dot print, and I want it to print finished. And that'll tell me that the brain is done. So what I can now do here, I can build the code, click on build, and that tells me that there are no errors in it. So now I can go ahead and transfer the code to my robot, which if you have it wirelessly connected, you should be able to do that. I like to plug the wire in. Click download. And then you can run your code from here. Alright, so it said running at first, and then it went through the functions, and then it went ahead and just stopped and said finished. So that's my code. If this helped you out, great. If not, look around for other videos, or check out what the other motion and sensing commands will do. Take care.